I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Alton, New Hampshire School Board. It is Monday, April 11th. It is 5:31 p.m. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Ann Pierce.
Karen Curry-Tonoff. Pam McLeod. Carol Locke.
Tim Broderick.
John MacArthur.
Heidi Duford.
First order of business is reorganization of the board. Is there a nomination of a member to serve as chair?
I'd like to nominate Carol Locke for chair. Second.
That's a motion and a second to nominate Carol Locke. You accept?
Yes, I do.
Are there any other nominations? Is there any discussion on this nomination? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. It's your meeting.
So now I would like to nominate Karen as vice chair.
Second.
Sorry. Any discussion? Will you accept it?
Sure.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Karen is our vice chair. There we go, Karen. All right. Sorry, I was so busy making my new sign here.
It's important.
Yes, important stuff. Okay, first item is the agenda review. Did anyone have anything they wanted to add to the agenda?
Committee assignments.
Committee assignments is on here.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped it. See, already I'm blowing it as a chair. What the heck? Maybe we should have the vice chair take right over. I'm sorry, yeah, committee assignments. Yes, let's go. We have, right now we have the budget committee is Rebecca Johnson and Karen Kay. So do you still want to be on the budget committee, Karen?
I am willing to be the alternate, but not the main person, because I've done that a few years in some
Okay.
shape or fashion.
All right, so Rebecca's not here to speak up. Do you think she would have any objections? Should we just keep her on?
I think she did a nice job.
I think she did a great job.
Seems to be in her
Okay,
interest.
well, we'll
Yeah.
leave her unless she protests mightily. All right, negotiations have been Pam and myself. And we also are signed up for the Prospect Mountain High School negotiations, and we both found 2 negotiating teams were a little much. And we have to negotiate at the high school with the paras, correct?
Yes.
And the teachers this year?
Here,
Yes.
yes.
At ACS. So at this point, I'm signed up to negotiate at the high school. Pam said that she's willing to do the teacher's contract here, but that means that we need someone to step up to do the second person here and the second person at the high school. So what's your pleasure, people?
We talked about Anne doing that and really treating it as an alternate position. And Tim, trying to make sure we weren't doing both contracts at the exact same time,
We could
which
probably
I
do
know
that.
wasn't your timing, but
No, I'm sure we can.
yeah.
Yeah.
think
I think we'll have
better.
more flexibility during this negotiating season compared to what we just experienced in the
Okay,
fall.
good. That was tough.
So Anne, would you like to be on a team?
I would love to.
Which one would you like to negotiate?
Whatever you
The teachers or
need.
the paras?
It doesn't really matter to me. I
love
really am happy to help. My only concern was, I know last time when you did the prospect, that you had given a significant amount of time, including days
Sure.
during the week, and that's not going to happen.
It was not like that with the Alton teachers last time. It was, I think, 3 or 4 meetings.
Yeah.
Very straightforward.
Yeah. That's,
Yeah, it wasn't contentious, but I also work, so, we definitely had to have late afternoon.
right.
Yeah.
That's my only concern,
Sure,
is that
I
I'm
get
not
that.
willing to take time off from students to negotiate for teachers.
So are you
Karen?
looking for an alternate for both? And
Well,
for
see,
them to be
Pam and
different,
I
I'm trying to understand.
we're doing 2 contracts
Yeah.
last year. So we both signed up again for the high school negotiations
Right.
and then negotiations here. I was expecting to sign up thinking I didn't have to negotiate this year, but evidently we do. So I think 2 contracts is a lot. Pam and I both agreed to that. So she said she would handle the one here.
Mm-hmm.
I will work on the one at the high school, because
Okay,
that's.
so you need a second for each team.
Correct.
At this point, okay. I mean, I could be the second here if you want to be the second at the high school. I don't
Sure.
know, whichever schedule works out.
Yeah.
best.
I kind of like the idea of Anne's teacher experience
Mhm.
with the teacher's contract.
Okay.
That's the only preference I have one way or another, because I just think that you would have, good experience to
Mhm.
bring to the table.
I'd be happy to.
Although Karen has all of her longevity and board experience, but.
Mhm.
And business experience. I
And
mean, I
business,
tend to
yeah.
think also sometimes you want someone in negotiations who isn't only strictly in education
Yeah.
too. I mean, I think
Yeah.
sometimes you need an outside eye to some of the costs too.
Yeah, but Anne's tough too with costs.
Yeah, so I don't, either one is fine, whichever you want to do.
I think I'd rather do the teachers, just because I know more, but I could do either. Karen, it doesn't really matter if you want me to do para-educators, I can do that too.
And I think Alton, we would consider it more to be an alternate, where at Prospect, it tends to be more 2 members from each side, or we usually do. We don't stick with that 100%, people kind of come and go.
Mhm.
We try to have at least 1 person from each town at those.
Yeah, I'm fine with being the prospect second.
Okay.
Okay. Got that? So Karen will be with me at Prospect, and Ann and Pam will do the negotiations here. So I crossed off my name. Technology, Karen, are you willing to do technology again?
Yes, unless
Okay.
somebody else wants to.
Building and grounds, I'm such a contributor to that. I mean, Sean does a great job. I mean, there's not really much to second guess around here. He's a great leader here. So I'll be happy to stay on that committee if you want me to. Safety and Wellness Committee, Karen, you still want to be on that, or should we?
Well, I was wondering because typically in the past, safety and wellness and joint loss maintenance were one position. And I don't know if joint loss maintenance meets regularly anyways.
It meets, I don't know, like 4 times a year or
Yeah.
something like that.
I
It's
think
at
we used to-
3:45, I can tell you that, and it's by Zoom, it's not in person, which was my first mistake.
Oh,
Sure.
really? It's
Yeah,
a Zoom?
yeah.
Well, I originally signed up for that, so I got the notifications for a while, and I kept saying to,
Sean,
I'm
yeah.
not on that committee.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe those could be combined, because I know when I used to do both, because joint loss doesn't really take that much. So I'd rather drop one of the committees here.
How are they
Since I'm
structured?
adding
Are
to-
they combined at the school, the 2 meetings?
No.
No.
So what is the
Because they used to
safety
be scheduled
wellness?
back to back if there were
Yes.
was anything to review for the joint loss committee?
Yeah, they would, I know they go back to back, and I know prior to COVID, they were always in person. I'm assuming that that's the way they would,
They haven't gone back to in-person yet, to my knowledge. I know Joint and Loss meets this week.
same with buildings and grounds, we're still.
Yeah, which is fine. I can,
Well, I also wanted to make sure Pam didn't want to do technology since that's her.
I'd be happy to take it on, if you want to.
Yeah, I
It's
think
fine.
that would,
It's a big transition year for.
I think that would make sense,
Okay.
and I'll stick with safety and wellness.
All right, so Pam is doing technology?
I'd also like to maybe have a conversation about these 4 committees and whether we really need to have school board members on these committees.
I was wondering the same, truthfully. We
Yeah.
never had board members on our committees at Gillington, on those particular committees. We can change it, can't we?
You're the school board, you can do whatever you want.
Wow, what power.
could we just do it, that we wouldn't have to attend unless they requested it?
Yeah,
You know,
because
just
sometimes
so-
they want a board member to
Right.
help, to help bring something forward, but a lot of times it's,
It's business as usual for some of these meetings, and I feel like, personally, I don't have a lot to bring to the
Well,
joint loss.
that's how I feel about this.
And,
building
but if
grounds.
they wanted a board member there, then I would be happy to attend, so I think my suggestion would be to phrase it as if requested, then would happily join, but not needing to attend regularly.
I think it's different at the high school where there's more business done at those committees before it comes to the board meeting. More like substantive, you know, there's a policy committee there that reviews all the policies and brings them to the board. The Buildings and Grounds Committee pre-approves things and brings them to the board. That kind of work doesn't really happen here.
I
except
think
when it
part of
comes
that
to
is because it's a
handbooks.
larger board, I think is
Yeah.
part of that.
Yeah, the multiple towns and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Joint loss and wellness are required by labor law, but it is not required in a public school entity that a member of the school board serve on those committees. They are supposed to be comprised, of equal membership, management, and labor, but you don't have to be there to represent management. It can be other people that we designate.
So we'll leave it as needed, we'll just have our names there, but as
Sure.
needed. So if Sean feels he has a question that needs a board member, he can invite me, but otherwise he doesn't have to. and-
Same for
So,
wellness
just so
and-
I'm clear, does that mean we still share agendas, or only when needed share agenda?
I'll let
I
you know.
would share agendas and make sure that notice is going out in advance. I think some of the issues sometimes, one particular committee at the high school is you just don't really know in advance when it's happening. I mean, you have to give scheduling a chance, but in general, I think that it just feels like
Yeah.
these committees here aren't, you know.
Well,
isn't
then it
as
works both
necessary.
ways. So if
Right.
you send the agenda out, and we as a board member say, ooh,
Wonder
I
what
think I
that's
wonder
about.
what that's
Yeah.
about, I think I'll attend.
Yeah, I think it's still good to share it. And I also think we should maybe ask the committees what role they'd like the board members to play, you know, if it is important to the committees or if it isn't important, because I wouldn't want to just say, oh, we're not showing up anymore. You know, I feel like if there is a role, I mean, John, you're pretty much on all these committees, so what do you think? Putting you on the spot, sorry.
I think both, yeah, John and Tim should be able to make that determination, really.
Yeah, so, okay, I'll do it. The committees that deal with policy proposals to a board, like sometimes facilities, right? Like a finance committee, like a policy committee. In a larger board, and I used to have a 10-person board, and the joint board here is 10 also, it makes a lot of sense to have a subcommittee handle that work. It's just much more efficient. In a board this size, there's not much difference between coming to two of you ahead of time to talk as a subcommittee. I know we've got two different kinds of committees here, but board committees or board subcommittees, there's not a lot of difference, right, between doing that and just coming to 4 or 5 of you at a regular meeting. So I'm not sure there's a lot to gain by having standing committees of the board itself. With regards to the committees in the school, I'll say it for him, it's not always helpful to staff because it might limit what they're willing to talk about. That happens.
I get that.
And
Yeah, I do too.
it's fine with me.
So should we eliminate ourselves altogether from the board, from these committees, or?
Maybe we should be on them, and then if there's an issue a committee has that deals with technology and they need a go-between with the board, or there's a project coming up that will come to the board, they can ask me to come or ask you to come.
We could call it board liaison or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a nice term, I like that one.
That's
So we
great.
don't have to go every meeting. I
Okay.
mean, not that it's an overload, I mean, building grounds, but every couple of months.
Yeah, once a month.
If we ended up with a building project at some point or something like that,
Yeah, then one of us.
that's where you really
Right.
need board members involved.
And,
Yeah.
and then we would establish a committee to manage a project like that with board member representation.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? We're gonna deal with strategic plan later?
Oh, what about strategic planning?
You said we're gonna deal with it later.
Oh, okay.
Unless you want to talk about it now, and I'll tell you what's in my report.
Oh, I just meant about, because we set that up as board members participating on a committee.
Right, I figured we'd wait until he
Okay.
does his report, and then we'll
Good.
just, does that make sense?
Yep.
All right, now we can do the agenda review. Did anyone have anything to add to that?
I'd like to add a brief non-public.
Brief non-public. And that has to be a very specific, right?
Yeah,
RSA.
I'm looking for the cheat sheet, unless Tim knows why, so maybe he knows the
You have the worksheet, Andy?
I have it right here.
Find it?
Right at the end.
It would be.
C.
C, yeah, that's what I was thinking. So it would be a non-public under 91A:3 to C.
91A:2C. Okay. All righty. Anything else you'd like to add to the agenda? All right, on to the minutes from February 15th, 2022. Anything?
I
anyone-
move we approve the minutes from February 15th.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as read?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, public input seems a little sparse here, so I don't think we have any public input, but I'll open it, and now I'll close it. Informational items, financial. I'm assuming that's you, Heidi?
Do you have any questions on the expense report?
I had some questions.
Okay.
On page 2, for example, top line on page 2, books replacement math, where we had budgeted $15,000 and didn't expend that. And I think if you look at this section, we've got quite a few lines where we had budgeted significant amounts and haven't used them. So I just wanted to know, are those items that we decided we didn't need, or are they on a different line? Yes?
On the math book replacement, I can tell you at my administrative meeting with the school administration just last week, Shay Castley was talking about purchasing books to go with the math curriculum, which I imagine would have to be against this line.
Okay, so that's
I'm
gonna be for
sending
next
out-
year, or?
Year after year.
They
Next year.
probably didn't have a lot of time to evaluate the math program with COVID going on, is my guess, but I might be wrong. They're probably taking more time this year.
You know, we don't have a lot
I'm
more.
gonna be sending out a memo this week to ask everybody to get their purchases in,
Right,
because it's winding down.
it's getting down.
Yeah, and for example, software general, we budgeted 30,000, and, we're building from a zero-based budget, so these should be specific items that we planned to purchase. So I'm just wondering, there seems to be a lot of lines here where we haven't expended what we planned on. I
know she had mentioned
know
to
why.
me, and I don't know if this is true with this particular line, but some of the end-of-the-year funds from last year, they were able to purchase some of the items that were.
yeah, and that's what I'm trying to understand. Did it get,
It
did we have
could-
other
it could be,
funds or
but
grants?
I can
or?
look at that.
So anything that was bought ahead, like in June,
Mhm. Yeah.
we didn't
Well,
buy it.
it will be important for when we do the next budget.
Right.
It just stuck out to me that there were a lot of lines there that were mostly 2/3 way through the year and we haven't used them.
The problem is you don't know how much leftover money you're gonna have, if you're gonna be able to purchase. You do the budget so far in advance, that happens quite often.
No, I understand, but I think we've always been pretty specific with listing, the items for each line
Sure,
item that
I
we
get
plan to
that.
purchase.
I think they probably purchased it before the end of last school year, and they don't need the money this year then, is what I'm assuming.
That's a possibility, right? So out of surplus, it is legal to buy into the next year's planned purchasing. It is not okay to use next year's money to buy back, right, to this year, or this year's to buy back into last year. But it is pretty common during June, if there's surplus, to use some of that to buy ahead planned purchases for the next year. But again, Heidi and I wouldn't have made those purchases, and they'd be in last fiscal year now. So they could offset some of these lines. That could, a specific example. Let's say on a different line than the ones we're looking at right now, we were planning to buy new chairs for the library, and that was in the budget. For this fiscal year, it would have been legal for the SAU last June, when we weren't the SAU, to say, oh, we have surplus money, we'll buy those chairs now.
Yes, I understand that.
Right.
I understand all that.
So I just don't know how much that could have happened in any of these lines, and that's hard for us to,
I know, I'm
know.
bringing it up as
Yeah.
a general situation
Yep.
to pay attention to and to understand, did we not need these items, or did we push them out, or did we change what we needed, or did we actually have other funds that we used just for these supplies, because it did stick out. And then I had a question on page 4, salary enrichment. I was just wondering why you don't encumber that like the other salaries.
Salary enrichment.
Middle of the page.
I will look at that. I didn't put the correct person on that line. Because
Okay.
you had to switch, originally it was
Yeah.
one person, and then they switched to be a regular teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So there was confusion there, but I'll look into that.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you. That's all I had.
That's all you have? Anyone else have any other questions for Heidi? Okay, on to enrollment.
We're up 12.
We're up 12, it looks, yeah,
Wow.
13 actually, than last year. Huh,
That's great.
we're increasing our enrollment, huh? Not enough to create a hassle though, right? That's good to hear.
Pre-K and
All right, any questions or comments about the enrollment? All right, on to strategic plan and goals.
well, you have two things here. So there's strategic planning for the school, and then there's school board goal setting, which is something you all may have a way of doing that I haven't experienced with you before. Regarding strategic planning for the school, in my report, and in light of our conversation that you were all there for last week at the joint board meeting, plus a meeting I had with the administrators here in the school last week, I'm going to suggest that we do elementary school strategic plans in the fall. I've also heard really positive reviews of the consultant who did the work here 4 or 5 years ago, and want to suggest that we at least consider using her or somebody similar. But she seems to have done a good job, and people seem to be pretty happy. So it might be worth bringing her back. She already knows the school. She knows the previous plan. It would allow you, whoever's involved, to do the high school first, because that's coming up sooner. And then as we enter the new year, we do the elementary school plan. For me, selfishly, there, I hope, will be more of an opportunity going into next year. I'm knocking on wood, for me to be in the school and get to know the staff. The way we started this year, I didn't have the kind of opportunity that I would like to as superintendent with a new school. And this process would create more opportunities for that to happen.
I think that sounds smart. I think we just have to be cognizant of the budget process and make sure that whatever the timing is, that you have a chance to inform next year's budget with the plan.
So I originally had signed up to work on the strategic plan at the high school, but Karen's expressed an interest in doing that, do the high school strategic plan. So I'll switch myself to this, working on this plan, and Karen can do the high school one. But we'll need a second board member.
Up to you.
Right now, we have 2 board members, correct?
When you did it here last time, how did the board participate? What do you recall?
I know Peter was on it.
I can't imagine we need 2 board members.
I could also have a preliminary conversation with Lynn, and then
Because
There's-
we're gonna have
if we're doing
4
it in the
board
fall, there's plenty of
members.
time.
We'll have 4 board members on the high school one
total,
from here.
2 from Alton.
2 from Alton and 2 from Prospect. That's why I didn't know if we needed 2 for ours. You think Rebecca would be interested
I think the timing would be tough
with the budget?
with the budget committee.
Okay. I mean, I'll be glad to represent you guys. I'm just saying that,
Yeah,
you know,
I think
Yeah.
2 would be tough. We've got negotiations, we've got budget in the fall.
it's small
Goes along.
board.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be the rep. Watch
If you
out,
need
people.
help, Carol will
Yeah, I
help you.
can be your alternate if you
All
want,
right.
since I'm doing
Well,
the
you
other
2
one
are
too.
both on the Prospect one, right?
Yeah.
You'll be working on
I
that.
have no idea what I'm
I
on
think you signed up
anymore.
for that, yeah.
I'm just hoping that I get some emails that's telling me when I'm meeting or some texts and
It's gonna be a little
Well,
while.
and you
After
may get that,
vacation.
you'll get that one done earlier, and then in the fall, if I need help, I'll let you guys know. How's that
That's
sound?
fine.
All righty. Retirement, isn't it lovely? All right, so we have that, and then the goal setting, I don't know, did we do goal setting last year with me? I don't think I was on the,
We haven't done goal setting in my memory as a board.
Not formally, not more than discussions and meetings.
I'd like an opportunity to do it, maybe even in
Retreat.
the summer, like a retreat kind of thing, you know? Where we can really take some time and really think about,
it goes hand in hand with the strategic plan, of course. So if we do goal setting this summer at a retreat, that would be, we could weave that into the strategic plan, because obviously that should be part of the strategic plan, what we want as goals for our school.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in Gilmington, they used to have school board goals, administrative goals, and teachers would always be involved in my administrative goals. I'd always ask teachers, what would your goal be if you could write a goal for our school? And then I would incorporate that in. And then we would post it on the website. So we did that every single year.
Having goals that are set in that way then relate to professional development plans
Correct.
can be a really nice way to wrap around into teachers' professional development also.
I agree. So
I
maybe,
like it,
yeah.
so
All right,
maybe
so,
in May we could schedule that?
sure,
I'll figure something out.
okay.
Yeah.
Superintendent's report, health and safety protocols update.
You have on the table my one sheet of paper, two-sided report. We have the lowest, this is the only report I'm giving this month on COVID-19. Belknap County has the lowest case rate in, among counties in New Hampshire. We're one of 3 counties below substantial transmission. We're in moderate transmission. Now, there are between 1 and 4 active cases in Alton. I know that because the data is suppressed on the map, which means it is non-zero, but not more than 4. And there are 0 cases that we know of, at least, among our students and staff at the school. As you know, most COVID-19 mitigation measures in the school were eliminated after your February meeting. The cafeteria is being used in full. We do continue to allow what amounts to a pretty small number of students to eat elsewhere at their parents' option. It doesn't pose a problem, and we can continue to do that really as long as people want us to. Face coverings are allowed but are optional. Sean and his staff have left the hand washing and other kind of use disinfectant and keep yourself healthy kind of signage up, and I have a feeling it'll never come down. That doesn't seem inappropriate, particularly in an elementary school. And teachers are essentially back to normal in the classroom. The only thing that John and other staff, other administrators asked about last week that I'd like to answer, and I told them I wanted to just see you first since we were about to have this meeting, is we had told teachers to keep desks in their classrooms distant to the greatest extent possible, you know what I meant, which they've been doing, but have asked if they could push them back into clusters and that kind of thing like they used to. I would allow that, but I want to give you a chance to object before I do.
I think it's fine.
The numbers are so low. It's great.
Yeah,
I'm okay with it. Karen?
Yeah, I think my only concern is that we have some way going forward, because we are going to get into a potential surge, and if you look at some of the only real data points that we have to look at, which are some of the wastewater numbers out of northern Massachusetts, those are going up dramatically in the last 2 weeks, like more than doubled. So I just would not like to be in a position where we end up waiting for an outbreak and putting students and more community members at risk. I think we should try to come up with some ways to have more data points to look at, to be able to, you know, predict like you would for any storm or weather that you see in the forecast. You know, if you see it's a possibility of 50%, you do one thing. If you see that it's gone from a storm watch to a storm warning, you do something different. just so that we're not caught being reactive rather than proactive. I know we talked about discussing some sort of pool testing, because that would be something that would really give us an idea if does start to be a surge, what we see coming in the door.
You asked me in February to do some research on pool testing. The superintendents I spoke with who had been pool testing aren't anymore. So I haven't been able to find a district that's doing it at this point. It was an opt-in program, so it wasn't 100% participation. During the height of this year's waves of the pandemic, it's hard to imagine that we would get robust participation in a voluntary pool testing program now, which really kind of defeats the
Well,
purpose
and
of
I
having
know
one.
Cam had a cold, for example. I'll just use Cam as an example. He's 10. He had a bad cold, and the school asked him to test before he came to school, and they did it very willingly. They had the home test, and then he was sent to school because he simply had a cold. He's been tested 3 or 4 times just to make sure, because Amber doesn't want to send him if he has COVID. But what we're finding now is I think we're finding a lot of kids are getting the colds, getting the flus, because we're not masking. And, it's a catch-22. It's the same type of illnesses that's how I see it anyway. And I think we're not going to get true data about COVID. That's how I see it because of the home tests. I mean, I have a slew of home tests in my house, and if I worry, I take one. So.
I did want to offer Tim that we are doing pool testing in Concord.
Still?
Mhm.
How's participation? Has it changed?
I don't know that.
Yeah.
The numbers are very low, though.
Participation
Yeah,
numbers.
and I don't necessarily
the
mean starting
deposit.
that now, but, if we see numbers increasing, at least that's a gateway we can put up to be, since the state numbers aren't really relevant anymore, because like you said, they're being suppressed, they're probably under, I think at one point when I looked at the numbers by town, Alton had 1 to 4, but then there are 5 new cases, so how do you even understand that number? But it seems like we don't want to get into a situation where we're purely reactive to having outbreaks and clusters. We need to have some kind of mitigation or some kind of protective gateway to understand what's coming in our door if we see numbers going up.
So are you not supportive of having them back into cluster deaths? Is that what you're saying? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with
Okay,
that.
I think that's what the original request was, so. All right, so we're okay, I'm okay with letting the teachers do their thing. It's very important to have those clusters of deaths. So if everyone's on board, we don't need to vote on that, right? Okay. So it looks like you can let the teachers do it. And if a kid has a cold, the teacher's going to use their discretion and ask them to sit somewhere else. They're not going to have them in a cluster. I just know teachers well enough to know that, or send them to the nurse.
So my understanding is pool testing is, the state pays for that, is that right?
I believe
They have
so.
been, yeah.
It does take quite a bit of time to set up, It's a whole scheduling, setup process, so.
I would be surprised if we got a lot of participation with that. I think parents are relaxing their rules. I think they probably will not. I don't think we'll have a lot of participation. That's my feeling. But, if we can look into Concord maybe and see what they're doing, I'm willing to hear it.
I think it's a lot of ifs at this point.
Setting it up's not complicated at this point. We have services we can call. They would come out. They'd provide forms. We'd send out opt-in forms to parents. They would schedule a day of the week when they're going to be here, and children and families that have opted in would. It's a swab, and then a number of samples get put together and tested as one, simply so that if that pool test, it's a pool of people, right, a pool of samples. If one of the pools comes back positive, then any individual who was in that group gets tested individually. It originally was a more efficient and cost-effective way to screen a population without everybody having to have individual testing.
Well, I think also the point is that if there is a pending surge, it gives you an idea of I mean, people are contagious before they're symptomatic, so it's a way to mitigate any surge and limit cases.
So what's your pleasure, people? Do you want him to bring more information next time?
Nope. At this point, I am good with what we are doing. I think everybody is healthy. People are using common sense. I think we just need to move on.
I think I'd like to have it on our radar because we're not immune to surges that could happen, and with a very contagious Omicron variant starting, I mean, places like Philadelphia are already instituting a mask mandate again because the cases are surging. Massachusetts, they're starting to surge. I mean, I think at least as some tool in our toolkit to be available if we need it is what I'm looking for this to be, not something starting next week when cases are low, but something in our toolkit so that if we don't have data points to look to because the testing numbers that we used to use are no longer available, we've got something to go by.
I'd like to leave it at Tim's discretion. I have a lot of confidence in.
I'll find out how quickly it can be set up.
At least so we know
Nope,
what it
I can do
takes to put it in.
Well, and our next meeting is after April vacation, so we'll have a sense when they get back if children are coming down with COVID. There are people who are going to be traveling a lot, I think, this year because they haven't been able to travel. So we'll know, and we can talk about it at the next meeting if we want to put it on the next agenda.
Yes, please.
So we'll put that on the next agenda. All righty. So now, we've talked about the strategic plan, so we don't need to talk about principals report?
Oh, let me, sorry,
Oh, okay.
I have a backside to the page.
Oh, you did?
Um,
Okay.
So, I think you're all aware, although we haven't met in a while, so maybe everyone's not aware. We have an auditor coming in to look at all of our technology systems. There will actually be 2 people here late next week to perform that audit. We've been conducting an internal audit to prepare for that and sharing that data with them. We have been working on a 5-year capital plan. It hadn't been updated for a couple of years. So after learning about the town's CIP process and how early they meet, they were meeting in August last year. Normally I like to do capital planning in the fall, but we'll be doing it in the spring. So Mr. Asdot's been working, and Heidi and I will follow up with him shortly, and we'll try to bring you a proposed 5-year capital plan updated by June, so that you can kind of endorse it. It doesn't add anything to a budget, but it informs the next budget, right? It's a document we should be using every year during budgeting, and then again at the end of the year, if you have surplus, there's an opportunity to think about that with regards to your capital plans. And then finally, summer enrichment, which John, I don't know how much he might have been planning to get into this, but I want you to know that Shay's been working with an administrator from Barnstead where we're both offering summer enrichment programs on the same schedule. It is the same schedule that was used here for the extended school year program in the past, 4 weeks, 3 days a week. It's the same enrichment program that the expanded programs here followed last summer and that we used in Barnstead. So the big change is that full-day programs can be offered either over at the TL Store Reservation, which is 1,000 acres located in Barnstead, Stratford, and Pittsfield, with ponds and trails and camps and buildings and things. And then there will be half-day programs here. So by working together, we can open up a full-day program that maybe needs to have 12 students in it in order to make sense to run. And we don't need 12 students from Alton to take it. We need a total of 12 students. So they've been working together on that. One of the reasons I want to mention it to you, and I write here in my report, in the interest of timing, I may ask you to approve program offerings via a phone poll later this month, because you may not be meeting again here prior to us wanting to register students for these programs. The partnership with TL Store creates some interesting opportunities. They bring in horses, so there's the possibility of horseback riding. They have a very safe, licensed, and regulated rifle range and have experience teaching adolescent and pre-adolescent children firearm safety and how to shoot with both .22 rifles and with BB guns. They have archery ranges similarly. And again, they are certified and have licensed facilities.
Do they have a
And
hatchet one?
They don't,
Oh, yeah, they have one.
although
Hatchet one at my Tina.
if we mention it, they might put it in.
Yeah.
They also have a high ropes course and a low ropes course, again, COPE certified with certified staff. One of the reasons for partnering with them is because they bring all these certifications to the table. However, I'm mentioning this to you for a reason. These are all opt-in programs. Nobody's required to participate in any of these things. I wouldn't want to offer something you don't want us to offer.
I think it's great. I
It's
think-
the reality
I
of
do
our
too.
world.
Right.
I mean,
And
you know,
our location, I think the more that we can offer and get kids, or get kids involved and keep kids involved and engaged in the summer, is better for the school and the community.
Yeah, I love the idea of the outdoor programs, and combining with Barnstead is exactly,
It's wonderful.
you know,
Fabulous.
exactly what we're looking
Yes.
for in terms of shared services. These are the kinds of opportunities
Yep.
we get
I
to have.
agree.
There's a survival program where they do some first aid. They have the kids build a fort, and then at the end, they spend one night there, again,
Really?
with staff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love it. It's the same stuff you do in a summer camp.
Yep.
I don't
Right.
think there's
My
anything on
Tina
that
has
list
all
that
of
you
that.
wouldn't do in any
Paintball.
summer
Right.
camp around.
They don't have paintball, right?
No paintball.
Are you anticipating any issues with staffing? Because I know that's a big concern around
So
the
far,
state.
so good.
Good? Excellent.
For the summer?
Yeah.
And so if
So far,
any
so good.
parents have objections to that, they just don't sign their children up for it.
Exactly.
Simple as that. If
That's
they
right.
want their children to take the course, they'll sign them up. If they
Right.
don't, then they won't. You know, to me, it's very positive.
People are excited about just this in general.
Right.
It's so different.
And I agree, I like the fact we're Barnstead. Because, you
Me
know,
too.
Olivia has some really close friends now from Barnstead, but it took freshman year to get to know them. It would be nice if she met them beforehand.
Sounds great.
All right. Now we can go to the principal's report, right?
Okay. Mine's pretty much as noted. I have a couple things, well, actually, one thing I definitely want to add. But, you know, our after-school program has started. We have some pretty cool offerings. April 4th, I'm not sure if you saw the Facebook posting, but as one of the Power of One projects, Jenna Sykes, we had 4 labs in our building
I saw
last
that
week.
online, yeah.
And
That's so cute.
it was just an amazing experience. She wrote a letter as part of the project for Mrs. Griggs. I had to include it, and I put a picture. I only could snag one of the labs in the picture, but it was just amazing to see, you know, how far this project stretches with the kids, and
Kudos to Ms. Griggs, too.
Yeah.
Yes, she
Just-
does a
this
fantastic
is one of
job.
many
Program just
people
really
that-
is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when she came down to me, it's like, so I have someone with dogs. I'm like, okay, what do you want to do with dogs? And it was, you know, it was truly wonderful to have it, and for the kids to see them, and then the best part, other than Jenna's face with the dogs, was when she started doing the commands for the dogs, just to get them to come. It was awesome, and one of the dogs was deaf, and she did signs.
Oh, wow.
It
That's
was
cool.
just
I
awesome.
should let her my lab and let him come out
So,
better.
well, there's a reason why they do labs, is because labs are approachable. Because
Yeah,
they're
they're-
asking, well,
yeah.
how come they're all labs? It's because they're approachable. People are,
They're not afraid.
and they're
of it.
generally a healthy breed, so that's why
Mhm.
they use labs. So
Mm.
I was paying attention. It was a really good one.
That's great.
We have the meet and greet coming up, kindergarten, April 20th and 21st are proving to be very busy days here at ACS. Just, if you notice,
Oh,
we have a
really?
bunch of things. So we have the first grade poetry tea coming up on the 21st. And then also on the 20th and 21st, we have 10 Ways to Survive a Zombie Apocalypse.
Oh, wow.
So it's our drama production for the year. They have recruited me to be in one scene. It's going to be interesting, and I know they're all going to have cameras, but I will be in the play this year. I'm pretty excited. to
Gosh,
meet
we
the
gotta go
kids.
just know if he makes it through the apocalypse. Don't tell us.
I can't tell you that.
Don't
'Cause
tell
that
us.
would be whatchamacallit there, but it'll be worth. I know my wife and son are coming to see it.
I bet they are. With
Yeah.
cameras, of course.
They saw my my outfit. Oh yeah, grade 8, speaking of activities to bring Barnstead together, it's not here because we're still finalizing with Barnstead and our team to do either the lower or the high ropes course at Teal Store with Barnstead and Alton Central 8th graders.
Oh,
nice.
That's going to be coming up as just a way to get these kids together before they're together at Prospect. The other thing is we're headed to Fenway on May 5th for
That's
STEM
cool.
Day. That's going to be awesome.
And a game.
Yes, and again, and then
Wow.
dinner probably somewhere. It's in the works. The team's still figuring out the dinner part, but that's happening. One thing that's not on my report that I just wanted to talk about today, it just floored me and I had to share it, was I went down to Mrs. Kane's 3rd grade classroom today, and I told her I was going to share this. I'm going to try and find a way to get this actually posted so you can see what they've been doing. But they've been participating every single day of the year this year in Move 1 Million. In Move 1 Million, they do it right after announcements, and it's pretty much under like 5 minutes, 4 minutes-ish, but it's actually movement and mindfulness, and they do all sorts of,
Yoga?
kind of, but they're standing and they do it together. It's different than yoga, but then they do mindfulness activity afterwards where they're doing breathing, and it really is, the kids love it. The thing is, it's online, and it's, so she did a permission slip, and these kids recorded the one for today, and approximately around 83,000 people will see our ACS kids
Oh, that's cool.
doing this in front of, if you go in the CAF, our logo, doing it. They were so proud,
Oh, I
and
bet.
it was so awesome to see it, and the importance that it plays in their lives. I asked them questions, and they were all thrilled to tell the reasons why
That's
it
great.
keeps them centered and relaxed and ready to start their day.
That's awesome.
So I wanted to share that. Another kudos to another fantastic thing is in Ms. Kane's room. So cool stuff to
Lots of
report
good
this
stuff
month.
happening. That's
So I have
great.
a question for John, because I heard that we're having dances.
Oh, yeah.
So I was wondering, is Voice active again, organizing dances? Because I know we had talked about that before, that they weren't active because there were no dances, but now there are dances, so I was just wondering if that's
Voice
opening
is
up.
not active yet. Hoping for future. These dances are coming from National Junior Honor Society. And then we're going to do a semi for our 8th graders.
Oh, good, good.
So the one on May 6th, which is right the week after we come back from vacation, is through National Junior Honor Society.
And who's planning the 8th grade dance, the 8th graders?
I actually believe that's through NJHS as well.
Yeah. I guess, I've really noticed in the middle school that there aren't a lot of opportunities for kids to be involved if they're not in National Junior Honor Society. And, all the activities have really been concentrated there as far as fundraising and organizing dances and doing announcements. And I just really think we should try to find ways to get more kids involved in those activities.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
Student council often would take that type of, type of.
That's
But
kinda what
But we could
Voice-
create. a
Well,
student
Voice, I think,
council.
was intended to be,
Is it?
does somebody have the website up where you can read what Voice actually, we say Voice is?
I don't have it up.
Yeah, I think it's more intended to be not a student council, but a student voice, so
Okay.
they could gather opinions or gather a petition to bring to the board and, have a way for the students to be involved and bring things to administration. And it seems like
Did it
it's
stop because
kind of
COVID?
morphed and then it died off.
Yeah.
And I
But-
don't think there
But
is a
every time I
student
bring it
council.
up, everybody says, oh, yes, we need to do that, oh, it's a great idea. But I guess I'm at the point now where I want to know, okay, what is the plan? What steps are we taking to actually reinstitute Voice and come up with some other ways that other kids can be involved in fundraising and the announcements?
Sounds like the drama's done a great job of including a lot of students.
Yeah, I
Drama's
mean-
doing
It
a lot.
sounds to me too like maybe it's something to start planning for next year, I mean, it is April,
We've been shackled with
Right.
COVID.
I know.
And voice was completely, it couldn't happen because of everything going on. But it's something that was very important to the school and was doing very well.
I mean, I guess I still bring it back to, if National Junior Honor Society can do these activities, why can't other kids be involved in those activities?
So were students volunteering to be in voice? I mean, how did that work? I mean,
I think it was, yeah, a volunteer.
organization?
The folks that were running voice are not,
Mhm.
but the hope is that it comes right back, just like we're trying to get everything else back. It just takes time.
maybe look at it
It
for
is
next
April,
fall.
and it's hard to convene something that hasn't, it's
Right.
been a while, but
Okay.
it's not off the radar.
Yeah.
And the
No,
more.
and I guess I'd also encourage the staff and the middle school team to, get an 8th grade committee together to run their dance and to be involved in their own dance. I mean, since there has been such limited activities they can be involved, give them a chance now to do something like that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I look forward to seeing the plans for the fall of, more groups opening up so more kids can be involved.
Well, and in some middle schools, they have 8th grade officers, like president, vice president. They do fundraisers for their field trips, at the end of the year, so.
If I remember right, voice was sort of an alternative to student
To all that.
council, yeah.
I had no experience with voice, so I wasn't sure what it was exactly.
And I think Aspire was another group that was active also.
Let's do guidance.
If you can't get them to do ropes courses down at the Boy Scout camp, my Tina takes school groups all the time in the spring and fall
Okay.
when they're not in session. And they have a great ropes course down there, and a climbing wall, and a hatchet area. What can I say about that,
It's very
I am
fun,
not-
actually.
I should bring my hatchet down there. Anyway, yeah,
So
so
you've
no,
done
and
the-
that's in
the-
between the two towns. It's right over the Barnstead-Alton line, so it's just something, if you wanted to look into, you
I
could.
pass it every single day on my way to work.
I walk down there every day. It's great. It's right on the water. But,
A friend of mine
My lab loves
who's
it.
on Channel 9 actually drove his bike to there to visit his son who goes up there every summer. So I've heard about the hatchets.
yeah, it's a beautiful spot. It really is. So.
Awesome. I didn't know about the ropes are okay.
Yeah, they have a ropes course, they have a paintball course, they have all that. All right, so then we have our facilities report. There's a project with HVAC. Did you want to talk about that? Heidi, the HVAC? Are we voting on that tonight in action items?
It is, it's an action item.
Okay.
Yeah, and
That, okay.
just like you heard last week at the high school, the ESSER-funded project has been approved here by the Department of Education, which is why you have
We have it.
a bid in front of you.
So with the building and grounds report, did anyone have any questions? As I said, I think Sean's doing a great job.
Yep.
He has some first graders who are gonna help him plant outside when the soil gets warm enough, so that's kinda cool. So, we talked about that at our meeting, didn't we? At 7:30 in the morning. I was like, don't look at my pajamas, please. All right. Action items. School calendar, 22-23 calendar.
Okay, so you've got a proposed school calendar for 22-23. It's slightly revised since you last saw it, but not too much, actually. The others changed more. This puts us another step closer to a unified school calendar. You have high school staff in on the 30th, staff here in on the 31st of August, with students starting here the Tuesday after Labor Day. The only students in the system who would start prior to Labor Day would be 9th graders at the high school who have 1 day of orientation on that Thursday. Everything else is common except for the parent-teacher conference day on a Friday in October, which here is a no school for students day. That's both a past practice and I think actually in the teacher's contract, but something that you could certainly talk to your partners, the teachers, about next fall, if you want to. So the last day of school is one day different than at the high school. And this is a 179 rather than 180 school day calendar because of that parent-teacher conference day in October. We could make it a 180 school day calendar very easily if that's what you would like to do. That would just give us 3 different last days of school instead of only 2. You have enough hours to do it this way. And I
I'd say
think I've
keep it.
highlighted everything that's changed since the last
Yeah,
time
I'd
you
like
saw
to
this.
keep it
I
too.
don't need to add another day on the kids.
No.
Something I've been thinking of, and I'll bring up at the high school too. I think it would be really nice to put the graduations in the calendar a year in advance for families who have, you know.
And they are.
They are, the
They're here.
graduation dates are?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
good.
for the
be nice.
high school, I gave you copies of the other 2 schools' calendars just for reference. So if you flip to the back for the high school, tentative graduation day is June 9th, a Friday. And 8th grade step up and the last day of school for 8th graders on the Alton calendar is June 16th, also a Friday. And that has other students coming back to school the following week, but 8th graders not having to.
Okay.
Do we know
So
when?
8th grade step up and likely celebration that evening.
Yeah, whatever
Yeah.
you call that.
Do we know when that's going to be this year?
We do, it's your next
Oh, okay.
next order of business.
Alrighty.
That's great. I move that we approve the recommended calendar.
Second?
All those in favor? Any
Aye.
dis-
Aye.
I'm sorry, any discussion? I forgot the discussion, but it sounds like everyone says aye. Okay. The audit?
Did we skip over the,
I
No,
don't
did you
see-
need a date or something? Was there another? Yeah, the last day for
okay,
8th graders.
so yeah, so
and
there is a
then
memo here that, let's
Alright,
say it
so
goes
it
with the
wasn't-
calendar, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
And
I
it
just
and
didn't
it
see that
answers the
act-
question about 8th grade for this year.
Okay, I was wondering where that was.
So there were 2 snow days, 2 traditional snow days, but again, you have enough hours to conform with ed rule and maintain the planned last days. So Wednesday, the 15th becomes the last day for 8th grade students, and that evening is step up or graduation or whatever we call promotion, the ceremony. And then 2 days later, Friday is the last day for other students, and it's a half day of school. And we don't have staff back in for another day, do we? We do, okay. So that would be Monday. So that goes to a Monday. So it's not a change. These dates are consistent with the calendar that was posted for this year because we can absorb those 2 snow days.
Hours, right.
Right, that's good.
All right. So the audit, we need to have a motion to accept the audit.
We do.
I move we accept the 2021 audit.
Second.
Any discussion?
Heidi, are there any highlights we should know about? Did not read the whole thing yet.
Just what they wrote in the letter that's here, those were their findings.
Are there any corrections we had to make?
Yes, this year, so I wasn't here last year, I came in July, so there wasn't much I could control with these, but definitely this year I am. So,
And in fact, we really didn't have a business administrator
No.
much of last year. Right. For the record.
yes.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of accepting the audit as presented?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we're on to the engineering and project management services. Heidi has the proposal.
So the same thing, we had done the proposal the same day that we did Prospect Mountains, we did the walkthrough, the same people attended both. And H.L. Turner, again, was the only bidder, and so that's what we're proposing tonight.
I move we accept the bid from H.L. Turner for the gym air conditioning and air exchange system in the amount of $30,800 out of the ESSER 3 grant.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That'll
Personnel,
be nice.
personnel report?
I move that we approve, oh my gosh, I'm seeing former students come back to work for us. Natasha Badfill as paraprofessional.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I move we approve the co-curricular stipends as presented.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm gonna do coaches first. I move we approve the coaches as presented.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And then, I move we approve the professional staff nominations as presented. We don't need any non-public or, nope, okay.
Second.
Any questions?
I just asked if there's anything of note that we should know.
There's not.
Anything?
That's good to know. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. I'm going to open up our second public input. Now I'm going to close it, since we don't have any. Future agenda items, I put down pool testing as one of our future agenda items. Do we have a list somewhere else of any other? We must, right?
This is the brown one.
We do.
This one. Okay, sorry.
We'll nominate support staff or people who don't fall under RSA 189 for the purposes of renomination.
I'd also like to add student groups, student participation in groups like we were discussing as a future agenda item.
I'm sorry, what?
Student groups,
Student-
participation in student groups.
Okay. Anything else?
In May, we typically would provide a first estimate of surplus fund balance along with a guide to potential areas in which the board may wish to encumber some funds in June.
Okay,
So I'll move we enter non-public under 91-A:32C.
I'll second. Any,
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
yes. Okay. We're going to go into non